Previously on WandaVision. Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. You guys know what time it is. It is time again to talk about WandaVision. This week we are talking about episode 8, the penultimate episode of the series. Next week is going to be the series finale, which is crazy. Crazy to think that it's already been 7, 8 weeks that have gone by, since the show started. So we're going to be talking about episode 8. Again, this is going to be filled with spoilers, my review, my breakdown. So if you guys haven't seen the episode, make sure to watch that first and then come back and watch this. Otherwise, if you don't care, continue watching. That's fine too. But if you are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button as well as the bell button next to it, just so that way you get notifications for all my new videos. Please give this video a thumbs up as it really helps out the video and the channel. And without further ado, let's go ahead and talk episode 8. So the episode opens up and, as, last week I had talked to you guys and I was wondering, if this was going to be like a completely flashback episode, and we got some flashbacks. It kind of bounced back and forth between, present time and then going back and seeing, some things that unfolded in the past. So the episode begins, we get a little backstory on Agatha Harkness, and it goes to Salem, Massachusetts, 1693, which I thought was really cool because I am, about an hour-ish away from Salem, Massachusetts, so it's pretty close to me. So that was, that was just cool to see that, setting and everything take place. And then we see Agatha, and she's being brought to, what looks like it's going to be a stake, and she's going to be burned alive. And because in the comics, that's what happens to her. She gets burned alive by the Salem 7. But we find out that these are actually all witches, and this is her coven. And basically, they're trying her because we find out that she's been using dark magic, magic above her pay grade, basically. And so, they're asking her about it. And basically, she eventually admits this. She's like, I didn't break the rules. I was just bending them to my will. So she's been doing some shady shit. So all the witches, they try and take her down. But Agatha, we see the purple magic that we see, in the present time now, comes out and basically sucks all of their powers out. Now, I'm assuming that this ties into the Yo Magic commercial. I'm thinking now that was kind of directly tied into Agatha because how she was feeding on their magic, and I wonder if that's something that she's going to try and do on Wanda as well, possibly in the series finale. We'll see. But she definitely does that here. Kills all the witches, including the mother of the coven. At one point, she tries to take her down, and she gets this cool little blue crown thing. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but she tries to take her down. Use all of her powers, and it's just not enough. So Agatha, I'm really curious where Agatha is pulling, where she's getting the dark magic from. That I definitely want to learn more about, and I would imagine we're probably going to find out a little bit more about that in the series finale, or at least I hope so. Agatha also, while they're doing this, she says, I can be good. So, but, she does give the line where she's like, oh, I bent the rules to my will, or whatever, basically. So she's definitely on, and I think that kind of, ties in with her comic counterpart too, because in the comics, she's not purely bad or purely good. She kind of switches back and forth. So I think that's probably kind of where they're going with her character in the show as well, and then just in the MCU in general. We then cut back to Agatha's basement in present time, and we see that, Wanda, she snaps out of I thought she was going to be totally mind controlled for at least the beginning of this episode, but she tries to go to use her powers, and Agatha's basically hey, you're wasting your time, your powers are actually useless here. And we find out that those little symbols and stuff that I was asking about in my last review are actually it's runes that Agatha had set up. So basically, if a witch casts a spell or sets up these runes, they're the only ones that can use their powers there, which is interesting. I'm sure that's going to be something that pops back up, whether it's the series finale or in probably not Spider-Man, but possibly Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. I have a feeling we might see that again. Agatha, she's talking to Wanda too, and she's just really kind of confused because Wanda doesn't seem to know these basic rules of witchcraft, and but she's seen her do all this crazy stuff. She's like, you have thousands of people under your control. You're basically doing magic on autopilot. Who are you, basically? And, Wanda doesn't really know what she's like talking about, and so Agatha really wants to find out how she's doing, all of this stuff, and she's like, I wanted to try and for you to just kind of, admit it, but evidently we're not going to be able to do that, so we're going to have to go a little trip down memory lane and find out. And this is at the point in the episode where, we start going into the traumatic memories of Wanda from like her past leading up to this point. And we also got one of my theories, from like last week, or like Easter eggs, completely thrown out the window. We see the little like fly or cicada, whatever it is, going around. It turns into a bird at one point, and then throws, and it turns back into the fly, and the bunny rabbit eats it. So that throws that theory right out the window. So I mean, there's been a bunch of stuff that we've all been speculating about, and yeah, that's one of the things that, yep, clearly that didn't mean anything at all. But still think there's something, weird going on with the bunny rabbit. I thought we were maybe going to find out in this episode. Hopefully next week, but I guess we'll see. Agatha, she forces Wanda to, start going back into these like traumatic memories, because Wanda doesn't really want to do it at first. But she forces her because she's like, hey, do you forget that I have your kids locked up in this bewitched basement? Which was, a nice little reference, because the house that Agatha is actually in is the bewitched house from like the series or whatever. So that was a funny little like reference there. So the first memory that we go into, we go back to Sokovia, and we see Wanda, and we see Wanda's parents, and we see Pietro as well. So we see like the whole family. We find out that those people in the commercial, those were not actually Wanda's parents. I know some people had the theory that that was the case, but that is not. We see her parents here. But I'm still a little bit iffy if these are actually her parents, and we'll talk about that more in a second. But at this point we see Wanda basically, they would have like family nights and watch like all these different sitcoms, and we see like in the briefcase, there's I believe it was like the Munsters, Bewitched, Dick Van Dyke Show, different things like that. And we also get a glimpse of like outside. You see like the war and stuff going on out there. And, so this was Wanda's escape, when she was like right from like a child, that, she loved watching these sitcoms. And so now that makes totally sense why, the show is set up the way it is, why, we go through all these different sitcoms, because that's where she kind of escaped everything that was going on in the outside world, which is really, really, sad. And it only gets worse from there. This is just like the beginning of the sad for the rest of the episode. And we're watching that, and right there, boom, you get the explosion, and, the house gets like blown up basically. Only her and her brother survived. The parents are dead at this point, because we know this all happened back with her like story in like Age of like Ultron. And then we see the Stark missile land right there. So we know we heard this story before. Now we're actually getting to see it. But there's a little difference here. So they're lying under the bed, and, originally in the story, they're like, oh, this way it was just luck. Like the missile was defective, whatever. But we see in this case, or at least it's, hinted at, because we don't technically actually, see her do it, but it's hinted at that Wanda actually stopped the missile from going off by using, changing like the probability, like a probability hex, I believe Agatha says, and which is wild. So that means Wanda can literally affect, like the probability or like the luck of something. And she was able to do this as a kid. So that means she has always had some kind of magic to a degree, which is crazy, because I believe this is like the first time in the MCU that that's the case. Like everyone else has like gotten their powers, like later on. But it seems like Wanda has always had her powers, which, this is what I was talking about just a few minutes ago, makes me think that those, at least one of those, people aren't her actual, like, either mother or father. I'm thinking there's someone else, like, involved in that picture, because it's like, where did she just, get these, like, random powers from? So that from there, we go into the second memory, and this is where Wanda was being experimented on in Hydra. So we get to see, this whole scenario take place. So this episode is really cool. We got to see a lot of, Wanda's backstory, and look at these specific, painful, like, memories of what happened in her past, because we knew that she had a traumatic traumatic past. So, we see her being experimented on. The doctors, they make a reference because we see Loki's like scepter, and the guy, he starts saying, he's like, hey, no one's like ever, all the people that we tried this on, no one survived contact with the Mind Stone. And the other guy cuts him off like before he can say it. But, so Wanda's standing there, and the stone comes out and basically comes to her, and then we see, the blue break off, and we see the actual, Mind Stone right there. And, Wanda's looking at it, and then we get, this was one of my favorite scenes by far in the episode. We get to see, all of a sudden we see a silhouette of someone, and then it comes into more focus, and it is Scarlet Witch's, costume, and what I believe is a glimpse of the future. I think we are going to see that costume by next episode, the finale. That is my prediction. We are going to see Wanda, possibly at the very end of the episode, like saying, I'm the Scarlet Witch now. That is going to happen. Book it right there. Afterwards, when Wanda, she's like, the doctors put her in like a room. We see the doctors, they're reviewing the footage of, what happened. And they're watching it, and we see, Wanda, like, she's standing up, and then she just falls over, and the doctors are like, what happened? So we see that Wanda was manipulating footage just like she has been doing in, WandaVision, like now in current times. So she was able to do that back then as well, which that was, that was pretty cool to see. And then afterwards, as we're wrapping up like this memory here, Agatha says, so basically what you already had, magic before, and coming in contact with this Infinity Stone, saying that it amplified what would have died on the Vine. So that was really cool. So basically, this episode is confirming Wanda's always had powers, and that Mind Stone basically just amplified it, which is wild. The third memory that we go into takes place at Avengers headquarters, and this is, I believe, in between Age of Ultron and like Civil War. Wanda's in a room. Her brother had just died, and Vision comes in, and we just get such. This was again probably one of the best scenes in this episode. This episode had so many great moments, but we just get to see a really beautiful interaction between these two characters, and that's one of the things I love about the show is we didn't really get to see as much with these characters beforehand because they weren't really a focal point, and now we're really getting a better understanding of why these two characters were perfect for each other. And it's really, like, it's beautiful, but it's also really sad because obviously, Vision, like, being, dead now. I thought it was funny because, again, we get to see Wanda, she's watching another sitcom episode, and this one is Malcolm in the Middle, which basically just confirms, we kind of knew that already, but they were paying tribute to the opening of, like, Malcolm in the Middle in the Halloween episode, which is, like, one of my, if not my favorite episode of the series, up to this point. So that was just cool, getting to see all the different, watching the different, like, episodes and getting to see those and how they did, in fact, pay tribute to them and lining them up with the moments in the show. And then Vision gives this beautiful line. He's talking to Wanda, he's trying to be there for her, comfort her, and, she's basically just saying, like, I'm getting washed over in this wave of grief, and, like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And Vision says something along the lines of, what is grief if not love persevering? And man, right in the feels. That one definitely hit me, and it was like, wow, great writing there. We then, as this memory is wrapping up, Agatha, she goes, so, let me recap here. We got your parents are dead, your brother's dead, Vision's dead, and you just really start to see Elizabeth Olsen, or you start to see Wanda, just really overcome with emotion. And you can't blame her. I mean, like, her life is a tragedy up to this point. And goddamn, the acting by Elizabeth Olsen in this episode is just, like, top notch. I mean, the emotion, if you didn't feel anything, you're just a heartless person at this point. But yeah, I mean, she gave an excellent performance. Both her and Paul Bettany, this whole series, they've been doing an excellent job. And man, this episode in particular just really highlights that, specifically for Elizabeth Olsen. But Paul Bettany in this moment in particular had, a great scene as well. So from there, the fourth memory that we go into is, this is the one that we really wanted to see, because earlier in the series we saw Hayward, put out the footage of Wanda breaking into S.W.O.R.D. and what it looked like was stealing Vision's body. So the fourth memory is her going to S.W.O.R.D. and, she walks up, she's like, I want to see, Vision's body, like it was gone when I came back, and, I want to bury him. And Hayward lets her right in, but man, he was a major dick. I mean, he's already been like a dick earlier in the series, but this scene, like this interaction right here, I was like, God damn, dude, you are an asshole. So, she comes into the room and she's like, I want to see like Vision. And he's like, okay. So, takes her over to the window and looks down below, and we see, Vision being operated on, like pulled apart. They're working on his body. And Wanda, she goes, what is this? Why are you showing me this? And he just says, because you wanted me to. And I was like, what? Like, what the hell, dude? Like, yeah, let me just show you, let's take a look over here and look at your dead husband, boyfriend or whatever, that's on this operating table. We're pulling them apart, putting them back together. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you want to see that. Wanda, she tells Hayward, says that, I just want to bury him. And Hayward says, are you sure? Not everyone has the capability to bring their soulmate back online or, bring him back to life. And Wanda's like, no, like, I just want to, that's not what I want to do. I just want to bury him. She probably didn't even have that thought initially until Hayward actually brought it up. It's like, yeah, you're definitely up to some shady shit right here. Wanting, she goes on to say, like, he's all that I have. And Hayward goes, well, that's just it. He isn't yours. And of course, that causes Wanda, which would, anyone to kind of, get a little upset. And we see her, break the window and she comes down like we did in the video. But that's where, in the video, I think it got cut, obviously edited to make it look like Wanda was the villain, when really she just comes down and she goes over to Vision's body, and then she just, she takes her hand using like her powers, and basically, and she says, I can't feel you, to Vision, which is a reference to their scene in Infinity War, which is just like, oh man, just like this episode, it's like, what an emotional roller coaster, my God. So, that, she says that to him, and then at this point, she leaves. I thought initially when watching it, I was like, oh, she's, she's going to go back in and go whatever and grab the body. But nope, she goes out to her car, leaves. We see there's like a little note on the passenger side of her, her vehicle. And I was like, like, what is that? And, she starts driving, and then we see her go, drive up to Westview, New Jersey. And so this place was an actual place. Wasn't really sure, just because of, did she actually like create this whole thing? Or was it some place that already existed and she just, just transformed it like she did in the other episode where she like converted everything? So it was like an actual place, and she's driving through the, the town or whatever, and we see, Westview wasn't exactly the best, place. It was kind of really run down, and we get to see some of the people like, Herb, the guy with the mustache. God, I can't think of his actual name, but we see him. We see, I believe, Mrs. Hart. And so we see some of the actual people, some people we didn't see, like Dottie, for example. So still, the theory that she is someone else, I know someone mentioned in my last video that she is someone else is definitely still out there because we didn't see her character. She's driving through. And this also kind of reference goes back to the Halloween episode too, where Pietro's like, hey, no, I think you gave these people a better life. They have better jobs, better haircuts, different things like that. And now we get to see, why Pietro said that, because it's kind of the case. I mean, even though she took over these people's lives and basically was controlling them, which I know they definitely didn't want that, because we see, they freak out when they come back to reality. But in a way, I mean, she did kind of improve their lives to a degree. So that was a nice little callback. And then, oh my God, the most, like, just gut-wrenching part of the episode. So Wanda's driving, she pulls into a driveway, and I was kind of wondering, like, did she just, like, take someone else's house, or, like, what happened? So she pulls into this driveway, we see this, foundation of what, is supposed to be, like, a house, like, being built. Wanda gets out, she has the note in her hand, walks over to the plot of land, and she opens it up, and it says, to grow old in V, Vision. And I was just like, oh my God, wow. So Vision had bought, this piece of land to build a house so that way they could, start kind of their own lives, which is something that, they do like in the comics too, and start their own lives and everything. And now he's gone. And so this house, it's just been sitting here, hasn't been built or anything like that. And, at this point, you just see Wanda, she just completely breaks down. She's reached her breaking point, and just all of that emotion, she just lets out this scream, and she, all of a sudden you see all of the hex magic, just coming out of her, chaos magic, as we find out. And she just, that's where she creates the hex. The house gets built, and then it just takes over the rest of Westview. And I was like, wow, what a powerful moment that was. That was such, I mean, just to see like the whole hex created was cool, but talk about super, super painful. And it's just like looking at, the rest of the series, it just makes you look at everything completely different. And then we get to see her actually create, another vision. So she literally creates a being out of nothing. Like, I mean, like we see like the yellow, so like I'm assuming that's like kind of the Mind Stone with her powers as well. But we see her create Vision literally out of nothing, and then it comes back to, the opening of the series where Vision, he says, "Welcome home, Wanda." It's black and white, she's in black and white, and then we see her looking on from the outside. And it was just like, wow, goddamn, what an amazing scene that was. And then at that point, we see like the set. So I assume that's probably the actual set that they filmed like the episode on. We see the set, and then Agatha, she's in the stands, and she's just clapping there, and she's like, bravo. She knows exactly what's going on at this point, and then she disappears. And then all of a sudden, Wanda, she hears her kids, screaming. So she runs outside the door, goes out into the street, and we get to see Agatha in her full-on witch outfit and everything right here. And she has Tommy and Billy, has both of them by the neck with like, her magic, like these two kind of ropes pulling on them. And, Wanda's like freaking out. She's like, don't worry, like I'm gonna take care of this. And then Agatha, she's looking at Wanda, and she goes, you have no idea how dangerous you are. And you're supposed to be a myth, a being capable of spontaneous creation, and instead you're basically just making breakfast and dinner here instead. And just like the line of her saying, not powerful, but just how dangerous she was, I was like, oh shit, she's going to say it, she's going to say it. And then, she looks at Wanda and she says, this is chaos magic, Wanda. You are the Scarlet Witch. So we finally get, the Scarlet Witch name in the MCU. I know they couldn't use it before, I believe, because of the X-Men, franchise. But we finally get the name. And it's cool because, there's like this whole myth and everything, behind it with what they're doing, it seems like, in the show. I know, like in the comics, like she, with her origins and stuff like that too. But that was just a really cool build-up. And that's how we end, the episode. We do have an end credit scene, which I'll go into in a second, but man, that moment too was so cool. What a way, just like a mic drop at the end of the episode there. So that was awesome. I really think in the finale, we're going to see, full Scarlet Witch by the end of it in that costume that we saw in the flashback with the Mind Stone, because I think, shit's going to hit the fan in the finale. Then we do get another mid-credit scene, which I think was, after we saw last week's, we got that one. I knew we were probably going to get one here, and then I'm almost positive we're going to get one in the series finale as well. So we get the mid-credit scene here, and we see Hayward, and, he's talking to his sword agents, and he's like, all right, we're ready to go to launch, like, our attack. And then we go in, we see the drone that, Wanda took out and threw out that had the missile that was trying to shoot at her, and it has Wanda's magic still on it. And so basically, somehow Hayward has figured out a way to siphon the magic, and then we see Vision's body. They put it back together. They just haven't been able to figure out a way how to get it jump-started again. And I guess, using Wanda's magic, they're able to do so. But this Vision is all white, so two things here. I'll tell you which one I'm going with, but two things. One, it's either the white Vision from the comics, which is basically it's Vision, but he doesn't have like any of his human, like part of him at all. So it's just like basically like a husk. So it's either the white Vision, or two, which is my personal theory, is that I think it's going to be, it's Vision's body, but we're going to hear Ultron's voice come out of his body in the next episode. It's going to be voiced by James Spader. Part of the reason why I think that, because I've seen like the rumors online with like him being in the IMBD, but that's not totally, because I know people can like edit that and stuff like that. My biggest thing why I'm kind of leaning towards that, one is eyes. They just looked creepy, but two, every time I finish, WandaVision, and I believe it's like that with everybody, but they always recommend watching Age of Ultron. And I mean, it makes sense because, the rest of the whole series kind of ties into that, just dealing with like Wanda and Vision. But I think that is there for a reason, and I think that we are going to hear Ultron's voice come out of Vision's body. So how messed up is that going to be? She's going to see the original Vision's body, but then Ultron's voice is going to be coming out of him. That is going to seriously mess up Wanda, in the finale. So shit's about to go down. I know, I think there might be some kind of fight between like, the two different Visions, like the one in the Hex is going to try and take on this one. And I don't know if they're going to kill each other. I definitely think that both of them aren't going to make it out of this, and either Wanda might have to kill one of them or both of them, which again would be really messed up because that means she'd have to kill him, 3, 4 times like now, and I think that might be the thing that just really throws her over the edge. I don't know if her kids are going to make it, because at the end of this episode too, Agatha kind of hints at that her kids like aren't actually real, but I don't know. I'm on the edge of like whether if they're going to make it or not, because I do kind of think that they could be possibly setting up young Avengers, with them, Hulkling, the different, people and stuff like that. So I think they could be doing that. So I'm still kind of 50-50 as far as that goes, but I think that Vision, he's not going to make it out of this, and I think that's really going to cause her to just go over the edge. And if she loses her kids, I mean, that's going to be it too. And so we are going to see Wanda officially, become like the Scarlet Witch. She's going to have that costume, from the comics. It looks like it's going to be badass. And I think that's kind of how we're going to leave things. And, she's obviously going to come back in Spider-Man, because this ties into Spider-Man 3 or No Way Home, and then Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. I think there's a good chance, too, that we do see Doctor Strange show up in the finale, too, just because he is connected with this and because of, how powerful we find out that, Wanda, a.k.a. the Scarlet Witch, is, that he might have to come in and interject himself, and that's how it's going to kind of tie all these things, together. So, yeah, I can't believe, guys, it kind of sucks that we're at the end of this series. I have loved this series. I know a lot of you guys have, too. It's been so much fun, and I think I'm actually going to go back, watch all the episodes before we get to the finale, because just especially after this episode, going back and watching some of those, they just have a whole different meaning now. So I might do that and then, watch the finale, this upcoming Friday. I really hope we get at least an hour episode, because there's still a lot to kind of, to tie up, see what Agatha, what's her whole plan, is she evil? Is she good? Because it seems like she's trying to train almost like Wanda a little bit, show her some of the ropes, but at the same time, is she trying to take her power? Because, we've seen that she loves, getting new knowledge or, her power. So I don't know, what's going on with her, what's going to happen with Vision, are the kids real, are they going to make it, are they not, what's going on with Monica and all of them, are we still going to see the engineer? There's still quite a few questions to go, so I hope we at least get an hour. I know that they're definitely going to leave things on somewhat of a cliffhanger, because like I said, it ties into a couple of the other MCU projects. But I know they have to answer quite a few of these. So we will see, but let me know what your guys, thoughts and theories are down below. I can't wait to hear them. It's always fun reading them. I appreciate when you guys leave those comments. Again, give this video a thumbs up. It really helps out the video and the channel. Just because, I'm a smaller channel, so anything like that, it really helps with YouTube's algorithm. And then if you guys are new to the channel, please make sure to hit that subscribe button as well as the bell button next to it. That way you get notifications for all my new videos. Again, if this is your first time seeing one of these videos, I've done reviews for all the other episodes, so go ahead and check those out. And as always, guys, please make sure to check back for more Pop Culture with Pat.